All right, so this is the PLA reel. We're going to print the fender washers with ABS just to be consistent with the OmniStand, and also it's going to be in the heated environment with the heated bed and everything. So we want to be able to have with temperature. So I want the fender washer to be outside of this little ring here. So this is almost close to 80 millimeters in diameter. So the outside of the fender washer is going to be 80, and the interior hole is going to be a little bit bigger than the diameter of the rod. So this is the short rod that came with the printer. It's the same diameter as the long rod we've got in there now. So this is about 18.5 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and make the inside of the fender washer 20, so it easily goes on here. That'll give us enough coverage so that it will keep the reel in a consistent position, so it won't be flopping around and causing problems. So. All right, so we talked about making these what I'm calling fender washers for the OmniStand reels. Some of the reels are smaller than or more narrow than the rod that's we printed out for the stand, which the rod is 100 millimeters long. That's good for the 1 kilogram reels, at least some of them. I have to make sure we buy new ones that are compatible, but the one we have, it works. For the narrower ones, the wheel can get kind of off center, and that could cause some feeding problems for the filament. So we need to get some spacers, or I'm calling them fender washers, because that's what they look like to me, that we designed using SCAD. So there's a 5 millimeter thick one that's going to be on the inside closest to the bed, and that'll just keep the reel from going too close to the bed, basically. Then we've got one for the left side. There's one that's 10 millimeters thick. That's what this height is. And for this one, we put spokes in it just to cut down on some of the material. It actually doesn't reduce that much material because you got to make these solid walls instead of just having infill. But it does make slightly less material. It'll be less. It'll be a little bit lighter. Plus, I think it looks cool. So, and I learned some new techniques for SCAD, including how to make sectors. Found some sector code. So anyway, so we need one that's 10 millimeters for the little bit wider PLA reels that we got recently, and then we've got for the ABS and the PLA that came with the printer, we need a 15 millimeter wide fender washer. So we got those few. I'm just going to do them as separate projects because in case something goes wrong, we're only going to print them one at a time. Is what I'm saying. So we're going to start with the first one. And I already loaded that into Simplify 3D, and there's the fender washer without the spokes. That's the 5 millimeter one. So we're going to look at the process settings. Layers are standard. Infill, we're only using 20% infill because we don't really care about strength on this. It's just more of a spacer. We are using ABS because it's going to be in a hot environment inside the printer, so we don't want to use PLA because it might warp. Temperatures are standard for ABS that we found with the blue ABS filament that comes with the printer. So the sweeter temperature is 130 and the bed temperature is 105. And we always keep setting this just to make sure, but we don't really need it for this project. So that's pretty much it. We're using rectilinear infill. That's probably the strongest. So that's okay. Now we need to connect to the printer as usual. And we have to type our little trick, this devices, and we weren't fast enough, so quickly connect as soon as this port comes up here, and then it'll connect it. So the printer's already turned on, necessary. All right, we're connected. So we minimize this, we say prepare to print. So it's going to take 43 minutes. And we send to the printer. So it's downloading the file, and we'll switch over to the time lapse. Alright, the print's done, and it looks clean, so we'll just let it cool off a little bit, and we'll pry it off of there, and try it out, and then we'll print the next one. Almost off there. All right, so I think I'd say it's a good print. It'll do what we need. It's not, doesn't look the greatest, but it's the right thickness and it's the right diameter, so that's all we want. Let's double check the diameter of the hole. So this has got to fit through. Just a little bit of leeway. So that looks good. All right, cool. We'll go on to the next one. All right, here's our second Fender washer for the OmniStand for the Flashforge Dreamer NX with a longer rod. That's a 100mm rod, so for thinner filament reels, we want to put some spacers. I'm calling them Fender washers because that's what they look like to me. For this 10mm wide one, which I'll be using for some of the reels, I think 3/4 of a kilogram reels I got recently. I put spokes in there because it saves maybe 800, 1,000 millimeters of filament, which isn't trivial. And so this is the second one, and we're going to print one that's 15 millimeters wide. That's for the 1/2 kilogram spools that came with the machine. Any other 1/2 kilogram spools I get in the future, I guess. I'm going to try to buy bigger spools. That's why I put the OmniStand in there in the first place. But I have some other different materials I want to use for my prints, so I'm going to be able to support all different weights of filament reels. So the process settings are the same as we had before. I'm not going to go over those. So we just go to prepare for print, and then we begin printing the USB, printing the printer, and then we'll be off to the races, and we'll switch next to the time lapse as usual. So that print looks really good. I think it's cool. It looks, the spokes, it looks cool. Saves some material, maybe about 1,000 millimeters of material, which isn't trivial. And it should be just the right thickness for the larger, maybe 3/4 of a kilogram spools that I'm getting. So we're going to let the platform cool down some more, and then we'll take it out and I'll show you how actually I first have to print the 15 millimeter one. After that, I'll show you how I put them together. Alright, so temperature, the platform has gone down. I have to get this off, I think. It's got spokes, so it won't really stick as much as the solid one did. Looks clean, should be perfect. All right, so here's the last one. It's the thickest one. It's 15 millimeters thick. This will be used for the PLA reels that came with the printer. and any other narrow ones, like probably half kilogram ones we get in the future. We should probably try not to get those because they're save money by getting bigger ones, but well, we may end up getting some at some point. Okay, so the build time for this is 1 hour and 25 minutes. It makes sense, it's bigger. So we're all set to go. All the settings, temperature settings, everything is the same. This one has spokes just like the 10mm one, so it should work similarly. And we'll send it to the printer. That's it. That's the last one we did. So the print came out, looks about perfect. It has the spokes. It came out just as I expected. Looks really cool, I think. And should work. It did save about 1,000 millimeters of filament, which is not trivial. And I'll be, as soon as it cools off, I'll be taking it out and I'll show you how I use the different fender washers to put the spools of different widths on the new OmniStand filament rod, which is longer than the original one that came with the machine. So that'll be up next. All right, it's been a couple hours, at least an hour and a half anyway, and the bed is cooled down to room temperature, so maybe it'll come out. It should come off easier. Let's see. Plus, this has spokes, so it's not going to be sticking as much. There's more open area. Main thing is you don't want to warp it. That'll come off easy. Look at that. Just about perfect. A little bit of marking on the inside of the spoke. So for this project, it's exactly what we need. It's the right thickness and everything. So now I'll show you how I'm going to use these together with the spools to make sure they fit in they fit on that rod a lot better than they did before. So. Alright, so here's all the spools I've gotten so far. This white one is PLA, the one that came with the printer. There's some copper that I got that's a little bit wider than this, basically the same size, 1/2 kilogram. This is 3/4 of a kilogram, and this is a 1 kilogram. So this is wider than this, and so on. So in all cases, I'll be using this fender washer on the side closest to the print bed to keep the reel and the spacer and the insert from coming off the end. And then on the side, to the outboard side toward the edge of the printer body or case, I'll be for this one I'll be using this one. For this I don't think I need one. Pretty sure this will be just fine the way it is. And then for these smaller ones I'll use this thicker one, the 15mm one. That should keep the reel centered, and because this is big enough to cover this area here, this area, the reel won't be able to migrate back and forth left to right, which can cause problems. So that's it. So I'll show you, I'm going to reinstall the PLA now because I'm done printing ABS. This is the last thing I needed for ABS. So I'm going to start printing with PLA again to do some prototyping. So I'll go ahead and I'll use these two. I'll use these to install this in the printer, and you can see how the final product works. So. All right, so you can see on this side we've got the 5mm fender washer. On this side, we've got the 15mm fender washer. You can see that the filament spool is nicely contained here. It can't wobble around or get a bad angle. But it still can turn freely, so that's what we wanted. So that's it for the fender washers for the Adjustable OmniStand for the Flashforge Dreamer NX printer. Signing off. If you like these videos, please give it a big thumbs up And subscribe if you want to see more, because I'm still planning on building some more, doing some more prints, so check them out. Alright, that's the signal to load the next filament, so we're going to do that. Sign off for now. Beta Cygni saying bye.